Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today, and after 5 or 6 months of not making videos, I just had to show up here to do a few reviews back to back and tell you, number one, I miss you. If you haven't seen me in a while, it's on my other channel that I've been doing a lot of content called Night of the Living Dude, and I love that channel. It's pretty fun. I get discouraged here and there, but it's been fun reviewing a lot of horror movies and stuff. But now I'm back talking about some Goosebumps that I have to discuss. And as many of you know, we've had 3 new books kind of drop out. Actually 2. One was a Goosebumps Graphics Haunted Mask adaptation. Another one was House of Shivers number 3. I'm currently reading that one. And then you have this one that's coming out in about 2 weeks. And I actually grabbed it a week ago when I was on a vacation with my wife to Tennessee. And I went into a Books A Million that we typically drop into a couple of times during the trip. And I found this book called Goosebumps The Haunting Returns. I think I already said this, but I had a pre-order for this on Amazon. I canceled it and grabbed this book immediately. It is 266 pages long, and in case you don't know what this book is, it's essentially a novelization of Season 1 of the new TV show, a remake, in my opinion, reimagining show that came out last year on Disney+. I hated the show. I wasn't looking forward to this book. 266 pages seemed like a lot of time to work through something on vacation. But I did it. Mainly because I was curious what the book would be like, number one, but number two, the promise of this book, according to Amazon and Scholastic and everybody else involved with it, was that it was going to have an actual ending to that Season 1. Because for folks out there who don't know, Season 1 was, this show in general, this new Goosebumps show, every season was going to tie to each other, like you typically had TV do back in the day. But because of the reception from most of the fan base, not everybody. This is not a hit piece video on the fans of this terrible TV show. This is a discussion here, I guess you could say, about how the point is most people hated this show and stopped watching it, or just made it very known that they hated it, like I did. I did every single review for every single episode of that new show from last year. What was it, 8 episodes, I think? Something like that. But this is a novelization of the entire first season. But it was supposed to give us answers, because what they did, and essentially what I was going to tell you a second ago, they decided, because of the constant negative hatred towards how bad that first season was, and deservedly so, they decided to go the American Horror Story route, or the Channel Zero route, and every single season will be its own standalone story. I prefer that, but I don't think it's going to fix this. It's not going to fix what you're doing with Disney+. It's not going to fix how the show felt like it was written by AI. Now this book here is actually adapted, not by R.L. Stine, it's actually adapted by Kate Howard. I don't know who that is, I did no research on Kate Howard, and no offense to Kate Howard, I blame the show that she's clearly having to sit down, watch, and adapt from there to a novel. I don't blame her, but the book is poorly written. It's not for her sake, it's not because of her, I would say, it's because you can't take the material from that first season of the show and make it worth reading. Not the way they did it, not the execution, not the choices or anything like that, not the weird Disney agenda stuff they throw in there now. None of that stuff actually could translate well to a good Goosebumps book. So the same problems that people like myself vented about in my reviews, or people like you may feel at home, of the constant feeling of filler in the show, it being fluffed up to 45, 50-minute long episodes that had nothing happening in them, but at the same time crapping on Goosebumps, making it this weird adult thing that it shouldn't be. It doesn't work like that. That's what this book is. It's a mess, and I hated it. I hated reading it. I finished it in the first couple of days on vacation, first few days, something like that, and I hated it. Frankly, I thought it was just as bad as the show. Probably worse here because you're reading it. You can't just mindlessly watch it, you know, which is a big difference between reviewing and discussing and just absorbing books in general versus actually movies, TV, so on and so on. I guess I will get into the plot generally for people who haven't seen the show, people who haven't seen my reviews of it or don't know anything about it. The general idea of the book, and it is basically word for word of the show, even though I had a couple of days from the trip up to Tennessee that I was so exhausted, I told some of my friends in the Goosebumps community the completely wrong information, that I missed paragraphs and stuff apparently. Some things that I thought were wrong were completely cleared up, so I had to go back and eat my words over that. But anyway, the book essentially is about high schoolers who can drive and make weird sex jokes and all of this adult weird stuff thrown into Goosebumps. They basically go to an abandoned house where a murder took place, and a student named Harry Biddle died many years ago. All of these teens that are friends in their little group, and some of them are not really friends, but eventually become friends, their parents all knew about this kid who died. They may have been involved with that in some extent, if you will. But the thing is, this house has some haunted items in it, like a camera, like a cuckoo clock, like eventually a ventriloquist dummy named Slappy who gets involved. And their teacher is named Mr. Brad, who just moved into this house, and they didn't know he lived there yet. He's like an English teacher. He wants to be a writer, or used to be a writer, something like that. I'll be honest with you, when I started reading this, some of the info seemed brand new to me, but I'm sure it was in the show by my discussions with people like Goosebumps Completionist, some of the other guys in the Goosebumps community on Discord. A lot of the information I swore was brand new to me, but I don't really think it was. As I continued to read, it started to seem more and more familiar to me. It's just the show was so bad that my brain deleted a bunch of it. Like, I don't remember the majority of the show because I hated it so deeply. When I go back sometimes and check out those reviews for individual episodes, like the Slappy episode, or the finale, I'm kind of surprised with some of the stuff that I find out from there that I don't remember. But anyway, the majority of this book is an adaptation of that show. Almost word for word, there's nothing new. Like, you're not going to have a paragraph that talks about Isaiah or James' favorite lunches they have. You're not going to find things that really appeal to you. What I would complain about is that I talked about the filler a moment ago from the show that made it feel so boring and slow and stupid, on top of ruining monsters like the Haunted Mask, making the Haunted Mask one of the worst adaptations we've ever had of anything Goosebumps in this show, book, whatever. It's just not fun to read. And the book itself's pacing is awful, even for like a YA book, because of adapting that horribly paced show with so much filler and crap in there. If you hated the show, you're going to hate this book. But I would recommend buying it as a collectible, because it'll be one of those things, I think, kind of like the obscure special editions of like the GYG books, the Choose Your Own Adventure types of Goosebumps books, if anybody doesn't know what that is. I say that because I didn't know what it was for a long time until I started buying these books years ago. Just want to throw some information out there for people. But this is awful, but it will be a collectible one day, I'm betting. That's what I'm betting on. I hated it. It's just as bad as a book as it was a show. I don't blame the writer. Again, I don't think she's the problem. I think it's entirely a bad concept, a bad story, having to be pulled over to a book. And it just doesn't work. It doesn't translate well because it was already bad to begin with, you know? You can't really take a bad idea or a bad story that's already been made and novelize it to be better. One of the few exceptions I've ever seen was probably Spider-Man 3. If you haven't read that, it's written by Peter David, who did a bunch of the comics. I'm talking about the novelization of Spider-Man 3. Really good if you haven't read it before. Anyway, so what I want to talk about briefly here is the thing that we all want to know about. So, like I said, this was advertised to have a final portion of it that would wrap off the end of the story that Season 1 ended with, because we didn't get a conclusion, and we're not going to have Season 2 pick up on that crap, thank God. Hopefully Season 2 will be better, like I said, but I doubt it. It's coming out in a couple of months, or a month, I guess. October's next month, so I guess it'll be here fairly soon in the next few weeks. But let me show you something here. The epilogue that you got to explain some of the things that happened at the end of the season that I don't want to tell you about, but in case you're curious about those things and how they're resolved, you get a grand total of 9 pages to tell you everything that happened at the end of Season 1, to summarize those cliffhangers, to tie them up, whilst also being very clearly based off a pilot that was probably not written, probably not thrown together the way this is written, because it feels like a summary of events that are going to happen in a first episode of a second season. You know, that's what that 9 pages at the end of the book feels like. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing as a book being released, not only as a collectible, but as something for the people in the fan base who actually like that terrible show. You know? You think they would have at least given these people 30, 40 pages maximum to give them something to grasp onto as a final threading of what they love about that first season. There's not much there. To be honest with you, it's kind of like, again, having the first episode of second season that introduces what will happen in Season 2. I don't want to tell you anything about that. I may make a video just talking about what was supposed to happen there, what I thought my thoughts were. I've talked with some of the guys in the community about this too, mainly Completionist, and I'm a little dumbfounded, to say the least, because it just shows there was no real idea where to go with anything. It's pretty bad. I don't really recommend reading it. I recommend buying it for your collection, is what I would say. Every chapter, well, not chapter, let me rephrase it like this. Every episode that's adapted is between like 17 pages to maybe 40. Closer to 35, but somewhere in that ballpark. Like 17 pages for an entire episode of the show that's like an hour long, mind you. I don't recall what they cut out, aside from people just staring at each other in the same frame. That would happen a lot in a very CW show way in the show last year. That stuff is kind of removed, but the weird like filler sex jokes, like there's one particular scene that I hate from the show. It's in this book of Isaiah and James, the two best friends in the book that we kind of follow as our main characters, talking about not being able to get breakfast burritos or whatever at this like school cafeteria thing. Why was that in here? Why did we maintain that? What piece of information from that scene did we need for this? It wasn't good for characterization. It wasn't funny, so it wasn't good for humor. It's the same problem the Disney Plus show had of just feeling stupid. Just feeling stupid and empty and dull. Kind of like this review. Maybe there's some more content here than this book and that show, but this is bad. I don't recommend it. It's not worth your time or your money. Unless you're a hardcore fan and you do collect these books, it's worth having. Because like I said, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's only a matter of time until the licensing runs out on this show, runs out on Goosebumps with Disney, and they remove the show from Hulu or Disney Plus or wherever you're watching this crap. Anyway, The Haunting returns. Bad. 2023 season remake, reimagining, whatever, it's bad too. If I had to rate this book on a 5-star basis, I'd give it like a 1 out of 5 stars. Nothing was interesting to me. I mean, you could talk about the slappy stuff being okay, but even that was kind of chopped down a little bit compared to what was in the show, at least in the later half of the show. It was bad. It was really, really bad, dude. For 266 pages, this should have been 300. To at least satisfy the people who liked Season 1, who wanted more of a roundabout ending to Season 1, they're not going to get it. I can't wait for this book to come out and for more of you to talk about it, because it was rough. 1 out of 5 stars. I hated it. I thought it was terrible. Don't waste your money and time. Anyway, what did you think about Goosebumps The Haunting Returns? What did you think about Season 1? I'd love to hear all that too. Are you excited for Season 2? I kind of have no hope, to be honest with you. I'm rooting for it, but I'm also like, I have no hope. I have no hope. It's like when you get to the end of the year and your kid has a report card that has a bunch of F's on it. Like, dude, there's not enough time to fix this. Like, you're doomed. You know, you're gonna be held back. That's what it feels like. But anyway, what do you think about all this stuff? Let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Catch you in the next review immediately after this one for the Haunted Mask Goosebumps graphics book. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this too in the next video. So see you soon. God bless you guys, and goodbye.